Okay, Land Rover Defender TDCi or Puma. This one's a 2.4 with doing the clutch master. So it's not really I suppose, a hard job. On a 2.4 or any 130, so 130 doesn't have ABS brakes, so there's no brake lines going over the top of this clutch master area here. 2.4, the lines come around the side and there's two brackets with a harness. Takes a little bit longer because there's a bit more jiggling. On a 2.2, it's nightmarish because the ABS lines go across and you're basically disconnecting the ABS brake lines and the expansion tank to move it all out the way to get into it. But this one's a 2.4. So either way, there's plenty of labour. Doing the clutch master, you've got to take the whole pedal assembly out, which is these 6 bolts here from inside. You have to peel back the acoustic matting, which is, if it's not already damaged and crumbly, by the time you pull it back enough, it will crumble and fall apart. But I'll show you that in a minute. So there's our clutch master. It's all fitted up. You've got your 10mm bolt with a 13mm nut on both sides. It's a bit fiddly. You've got to sort of turn the assembly over. There's your sort of cam action spring. You have to bring your pedal back to this way to get to this top one. Unbolt that, and you have to undo these 13mm. So some don't have twin nuts, some do. Doesn't really matter, honestly. Sometimes I just don't put 2 nuts back on it. This one I did. Undo that, back that off, get the master out, and then this whole assembly, spend time cleaning it up, degreasing it. Even if you use some degreaser outside and then you pressure wash it all clean and then you just leave it to dry. You want it nice and clean, because if you get any contaminants into that master, bye-bye master again, okay? Anything but brake fluid, clutch fluid, and rubber grease is going to deteriorate those seals. So I never spray any sort of CRC to lube any of this. You can use a bit of silicone spray if it's a bit squeaky, but generally, once it's all stripped, cleaned, I lube everything, well, anything that I'm going to lube, I will use rubber grease, okay? Rubber grease, or silicone grease would be okay, but rubber grease is designed for brake components. You know, when you're putting seals in brake cylinders and all that. Clutch, brake, it's all the same thing. Okay, on some cars, your clutch reservoir is fed from the brake master, but not on a Defender. It has its own tiny little micro with a couple of ounces of fluid in it. And on that, people always say, oh yeah, it's just a trailer master. Yeah, you can, if it's a good quality one. But if you use a cheap rubbish one, it's going to fail. I guarantee it. So you've got to use the original genuine Girling or an OEM version of that, or any good branded one. You know, if you, back in the day, I think you could get a good PBR one. Of course, PBR is non-existent now. Well, it is. It's owned by Bosch. So any good quality one. But if you just get an El Cheapo one from your local auto store, it's going to fail. I guarantee it. So once you get it all, but so depending on what one you get, you may have to swap that rod over. Okay. So it's got a little, like a circlip without the 2 little eyes. So you need circlip pliers. I just use them, or a little thin screwdriver just to get on the edge of it. You'll see when you start pulling it all apart. So swap the rods over again. Make sure any component that you're reusing is spotlessly clean. Get it back there. On these TDCi's, that's about the adjustment, where you just see a bit of thread on the end. Now, once I get it in, I'll lock those two up, okay? Because there is no free play on these models, 07 to 16. There is nothing there. You're not meant to have any space between the two. The adjustment is to get the pedal thereabouts in line with the brake pedal, which I'll show you later. What else? Your brake switch thing. Not actually sure what it does. Clutch rather. Clutch. It must be a open shut signal. That's what it'll be. Open shut signal to the computer, just to tell it that you've put your foot on the clutch. So this, just nip it up so it's just loose, because it needs to have movement to get it back in line with the clutch pipe, okay, the feed pipe. Now you've got two little copper washers on either side. If you don't have new ones, it's quite acceptable to reuse them, but once they're clean, get them on a bit of emery paper, a bit of wet and dry, flip it over. That will take the work hardened surface off the copper seal, okay? You can use that with any copper seals, except for obviously injector copper seals. Don't reuse them unless you're stuck way out in the bush somewhere. So you can see I've just put a little tiny bit of rubber grease just on those plastic bits. That, believe it or not, actually is spotlessly clean. So that's ready to go back in. So we go here. There's our assembly. There's on a 2.4, just on the bottom of that black gasket. You can see there's all the brake lines. So it's not too bad to get to. You don't really need to dismantle. There's our clutch feed pipe. So that's about it. There's that harness there. I've just wedged it in there. You've got to pull it back over once it's all in there, but there's just enough room. On a 130 it's about the same. On a 2.2 it is nightmarish. But they actually don't. I know some places say, oh, they go all the time, but I don't do many of them. Maybe I'm too expensive. I don't know. All right. Let's just have a quick look inside so you know what I'm talking about. There's all that horrible matting. There's your bolts. There's 6 of them. Again, you can just put a bit of rubber grease on them, you know. I know it doesn't actually matter. And you can put a little bit of rubber grease on that seal too. I only do that because that way you're not contaminating any of those clutch components once you've got other types of grease on your fingers, okay? So that's about it. That's that horrible matting stuff. This one's actually got carpet set in it. So I don't really have anything clever that, see how it sags? It was like that before I tackled it. And take the rubber off the pedal before you move it, otherwise it won't fit through the gap. And that's it. Obviously, bleed your clutch. These are really easy to bleed the clutches on. And that's about it. It should be good for another 300,000 kilometers. So take your time. There it is. And it's gone blurry, I think. Good quality master for the clutch and cleanliness. You'll be right. Or just bring it to me. All right. That's all I've got. Thanks. Oh, yeah, no. So that adjustment, I've got spanners like that. I generally find pipe spanners, they're just too thick and bulky. I thought I had a couple of spanners that had ground right down somewhere, because, you know, you're not putting much load on them. Yeah. So, you know, the needle pliers, you can hold that shaft when you're tightening that nut up a bit, just to get a bit in there. I'll finish that last bit of adjustment on when I'm there. And don't forget to tighten that brake, that clutch line up on that pipe. Okay, I think you've got the picture, and it's gone blurry. I don't know why. All right, good on you. Thanks for that. Thanks for watching. See you later. Bye. Just one last thing. These 6 bolts for the clutch pedal, make sure you do them all, get them all started loose. You do not want to strip them. I've seen guys strip them out and then they end up putting a nut on the other side, and then I have to pull the whole thing out. Just a nightmare. Get them all fitted loosely. And on a 2.4, see the bonnet release? Is that bracket. You just got to coax it out of the way, because there's a bolt right up under there, and you've got to sit there with your little ratchet spanner to undo it and to also get it started. On a 2.2, the bonnet releases this side, so that bolt is a bit clearer. Okay, so just get those bolts started loose. Once they're all in, then you can tighten it up. And then when you're doing your adjustment, if you need this nut in further, then push the clutch pedal down, and it'll stay down because of the cam over spring. That takes the load off it. Tighten it up a bit. You might have to put your needle nose pliers on the shaft. Tighten that up a little bit. If it's this side, then you bring the pedal up and you do those two, and you can drop a little bit of Loctite between those two, so, and then lock them once you've got that pedal height correct, and that pedal height is thereabouts in line. There's no measurement off the floor like the earlier Defenders. It's just about in line with the brake pedal. Okay, all right.